Hey gamers, today we're going to look at the board game Sagrada. Let's check it out. To set up the game, each player is going to get one of these beautiful little player boards here. Then they're going to choose from one of these little slips of paper that they're going to just slip in underneath the grid here. Now, depending on the difficulty level, depends on how many pips there are on this side. So, for instance, a 3 would be easy. Something like a 5 would be a lot harder. So, whichever one they pick, let's say I picked a 3, then I just slide it, and there's just a little slit there that goes right in there, and it slides in there. Whoops. Slides in there, holds in there, and holds all your grid. So that's going to be your player board. Now, however many pips are at the bottom, so if you remember, I used 3, that's how many of these glass beads that player will get. And I'll explain what these are for in a moment. So once the players have that, then you're going to shuffle these cards here with the blank die on them. They all look the same, and then they're going to pick one. Now, this is a personal goal during the game. So for instance, it's going to be a certain color, and they're all different colors here in the deck. You won't know who has which one here, but it's going to entice you to get a particular color, because then you're going to be able to add up all the values of, in my case, the purple die, and those are going to count as points at the end of the game. So you're actually going to start here on this track here. It's double-sided here. This is for points at the end of the game. This is how you start the game, because it will mark out all the rounds. Then I'll have this. I'll hide this from the other players, put it here. Now you're also going to want to shuffle this deck here with all the little blue die on it, and you're going to want to distribute 3 cards like so. 1, 2, 3, which lets you get certain other goals in the game. So for instance, horizontally, for every different color, like no repeating colors, I'm going to get another 6 points in the game. Or vertically, for every different number, doesn't matter about colors, just matters if I can get different numbers going vertically, I'll get 4 points per row. And then this one says, for every 3 and 4 matching pair I have, I'll get 2 points. Ooh, so there's a lot of other interesting goals that people are trying to get, and of course these points will be tallied up at the end of the game, but it's another way to play the game. This ensures that the game will never be different. I mean, the game will always be different as many times as you play. So finally, you shuffle through these cards, and these basically provide just little cheats in the game here. So for instance, you put these out here, and you can just read what they do, but they provide little cheats in the game. Now, if ever you wanted to use one of those cheats, that's where these little glass beads come in handy. So if you wanted to use one of them, the first player to ever do so would actually put one there. Now, they can do that cheat, and afterwards, if there's another player that wants to do the same kind of cheat, since they see there is 1 there, they have to put 2 there. And then, of course, the next one who uses that cheat has to put 3 there, and so on and so forth. So you see, being the first to use those would be very powerful. Now, one of the things here about the glass beads, what happens if you don't use them? Well, they do count as victory points, 1 each, at the end of the game. So what you're going to be doing is you're going to be grabbing this bag full of dice, different colored dice here. And you're going to grab enough for each player that's playing the game, 1 through 4, to have 2 die each plus an additional one. So if I was playing a 3-player game, I would reach into the bag and I would draw out 7 die, 2 per each player and then 1 extra. And then you're going to roll these die. And so however the die roll out here, and as you see, let me put them together there. So you're rolling out the die. Now then you're going to start matching die, of course, on your board. And so if you look on the board here, it'll show you that there are some colors here that you must place. So certain die must be placed of that color in these spots. Of course, certain die of these numbers should be placed in these spots. And remember, all of these little cards are different, so again, it ensures a lot of variety in your gaming. So what you're going to do is you're going to pick, and you're going to start from one of the corners here, and you're going to build out, meaning once you place a die, you can only place adjacent to that. You can never play catty-cornered. And by the way, catty-cornered of the same number or same color does not matter. It's only adjacent to that space. So what I would do is I'd look at my die here, and I could pick any one of these. Now, let me give you some rules on what you couldn't do. For instance, I could put the blue there, but if I did that, I could not put a blue there because there's already a blue there. I could also not put a 3 here because the number is already 3. You can't have 2 3s matched. So that's what you got to keep in mind as you're building your beautiful window pane here. Now, the first player will pick the first one, then it'll go to the second player, third player, and in a 3-player game, the third player is the final player. They will go again. They'll start, it'll go in reverse order. So the last player will actually pick back to back, and then it'll go all the way back up to first player, and that will end the round. Now, whichever die does not get picked for that round, it goes up here and basically acts like a round marker for the game. So you're going to have different colored die. You're going to be lining up every round. They're going to be placing a different die, and that's going to tell you when the end of the game will be. Now, once it gets to the end of the game, and by the way, what happens if you don't have a place to place a die and you can't get any of them? Well, then you'll just have to skip your turn and you'll have a little hole in your pattern. It will happen a lot in this game. So at the end of the game, once we get to the 10th round, what you're going to do is you're going to flip this over. And of course, as you see, it's a score marker. And you're going to have this little score marker that's going to match the color die on your player board here. And what you're going to do is you're going to place it right here and you're going to start scoring points. You're going to score all the points that you have on your window pane. For instance, for me, it would be all my purple die. I would add up the face value. So let's say I only got these two. Oh, that would be awful if I only got those two. That would only give me 5 points there. And then, of course, I'd add up any of the bonus points here if I scored any of those. I would also add up any glass baubles if I got any of that. And then, of course, if you do pass the 50 mark here, this little token does flip over to 50, and then you would just start back here on the number 1 spot. Now, at the end of 10 rounds, everyone adds up their points, and whoever has the most points at the end of the game wins. Final thoughts. What do I think about the game? Well, you know what? I actually got to play this at the Arizona Game Fair this past year, and I'm going to have to eat some words because at BGG Con last year, I predicted that this was going to be an irrelevant game after 1 year's time. I said, oh, it's all the hotness right now, but after a while, I'll be able to get this for like half off at Miniature Market or someplace online. And boy, was I wrong. This still sells out. Every time they get a printing, it sells out. I woke up the morning that they got their next shipment, and I was the second to the last person to get a board game. I mean, there's only 2 left, and they just got the stock in that day. What? It's insane. And I see why it's so popular too, because when I played it at the Arizona Game Fair, I was like, ooh, okay, this is fun. It's a little bit of a puzzle game here. And, you know, dice drafting, picking up those dice, trying to figure out where's the best place. You're going to have holes in your window pane. In fact, in all the games I played, I've only had one game where I've had my complete pane filled out. And then later on found out I had 2 5s next to each other, ruined the whole thing. So it's really hard to complete a full pane, but you want to. It's an extremely fun game. I really do like this one. This one's hard to find, even after being out for over a year now. It's extremely hard to find. So maybe by the time they do this video, they'll have the next batch out and then people will finally stop buying it. But you know what? Ooh, really good game. I'm going to have to eat my words. I will happily eat my words by saying this was a, you know, the new hotness right now would fade away. That is not the case. Sagrada is a great game. All right, gamers, that's all the time I have for now. So until next time, game on.